I'm pleased to say we're now joined by Sir Richard Dearlove, the former head of the Secret Intelligence Service, himself a hacking target. Thank you for being with us. How concerned are you by this news?
Well, I've been concerned about it for a long period of time, and I think it's very good that the government have decided to publicise this because it does heighten the vigilance of individuals and organisations, the seriousness of the threat, and the extent, and the very broad extent of Russian activity. So, yeah, it's good that they're drawing attention to it, and it's been going on for a long period of time already.
So what kind of information do you think they are trying to get?
Well, look, we're in a situation of grey warfare with Russia because of Ukraine. And as far as the Russians are concerned, the information world is part of the battlefield. And they will use material that they gather to manipulate the media, to push their own view, to distort the views of their opponents. They're very clever at this game. They were a leading power, let's say, in this area during the Cold War, and they're bringing all the skills that they developed during the Cold War to bear now on countries like the UK, essentially driven by the crisis and the war in Ukraine.
We've obviously got two big elections coming up in the UK and also in the US. Do you think that this kind of warfare, if you like, could have an impact on them?
Well, of course it will. I mean, I think we'll see evidence of meddling. And I'm of the view that probably they don't have the capability to, as it were, affect election results, but they certainly have the capability to, well, do much more than annoy us, to complicate things and, as it were, to distort maybe particular debates, particular instance. You just used that example of Jeremy Corbyn producing these documents about, privatization of the national health. And I mean, I had my emails, I had my ciphered emails hacked back in the first half of 2022, when I was very active with a group on Brexit issues. I was exercising my democratic rights as a citizen to be highly active politically on certain issues. And yet the Russians giving this material to journalists who were in their pocket, then spun it as a conspiracy with me at the center of a conspiracy, trying to, bring down Theresa May's government. So I mean, that's a very good example of how they can twist material and reinterpret it. Unfortunately, although, the news of the hack against me was a big-ish news story at the time, the mainline media in the West didn't really touch the content of the emails because they realized that, well, there was issues of privacy for a start, but on the other hand, there were also the question that it had been through Russian hands, so you couldn't trust that the emails were exactly as they had existed when I wrote them or when I received them.
It's quite frightening, though, to know that you've been, targeted in this way, that information and truth has been, distorted in this way. How did you find out about this?
Well, look, hang on a moment. I spent my professional life in the front line of the Cold War before I, as it were, became a senior intelligence bureaucrat. So having my emails hacked wasn't particularly problematic. I've been through much worse things than that. And, it was rather extraordinary. And I felt quite flattered that the Russians, years after my retirement, felt I was important enough to be a hacking target. But I think, for a lot of people, it is a pretty unpleasant experience to see their private correspondence blasted all over the internet. What happened in my case was that they gave the material to a rather unpleasant little journalist who I will name, called Kit Clarenberg, who is certainly a sort of Russian stooge. And, he started off by provoking me with little bits and pieces of my emails before, of course, I soon realized that he had had access or been given them. And then, the thing escalated as other people dug into the emails and put particular spin on them. But I mean, the irony of this operation was it massively increased my notoriety and credibility and accredited me with huge influence and great powers. So there was but I mean, let's face it, there is a serious side to this, and I'm not making fun of it.
I should definitely jump in to say that myself and at Sky News, have no evidence about the claim that you've made about the journalist, of course. Do you think that across the board we need to up the way that we deal with cybersecurity, in government, for example? Do we need to be a bit more aware of what's going on?
Yeah, we need to be absolutely aware of the threat. I mean, every citizen needs to be aware of the threat and the seriousness of this problem. It isn't a joke. And the one thing I can say with confidence is, look, the UK is good at this. It's good at cybersecurity. It's good at cyber defense. We have formidable capabilities. And, we have the Alliance of Five Eyes, which gives us global reach and a strong global alliance. So, we have the means to punch back at the Russians on this issue, but we should make it absolutely clear to them that this is completely unacceptable behaviour. And I'm very pleased at what the government's done, and I'm reassured by them taking that. But will it stop? No, it won't. It'll carry on, and people who are, as it were, unaware or haven't got their guard up will be taken advantage of. I mean, the irony is that at the same time as I was hacked, they hacked Paul Mason, whose name you will know, who politically is in a very different place from me, and he was much crosser and much more furious about it than I was.